welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Chelsea Fuss. I'm a floral designer, stylist, and flower arranging instructor. Today I want to share with you my eco-friendly approach for making floral ground installations. There's a few different ways to approach this, and today I was looking for an effect that was very minimalist and kind of scrappy and weedy, very organic and natural. So I'm going to show you how I created this installation for a photo shoot that was featuring a few ceramics. Today I am using chicken wire. It's copper chicken wire, so that's slightly more sustainable, and I do try to reuse it. So that is a good option. It's a great tool. It helps you get stems in place, okay? So I was inspired because I foraged this 5-foot tall wild fennel, some dried Queen Anne's lace, and some oak grass. Now, I want to tell you, when foraging flowers, you want to be sure to condition them. A lot of people have the idea that foraged wildflowers are just going to kind of flop over and they won't be appropriate for installations where you need long-lasting flowers. But on the contrary, fennel is very strong. In fact, it can stay out of water because this is one of those flowers that sort of just goes right into drying. I do want you to be careful when you're foraging for any of these umbel type flowers. There are dozens and dozens of varieties, and there is one in particular that looks very similar to Queen Anne's lace, and it is poison hemlock, and it's a white umbel shaped flower. So you want to check in kind of with your local authorities about whether that's growing in your area and learn to ID it. Be cautious of that. Anytime I present wildflowers, I like to tell you to be cautious because it can cause a rash even by touching it. It's not just about eating it. So that's one to be wary of. But at any rate, today the idea is to create a floral ground installation that has a very wildflower and earthy and effortless feel, okay? And it looks like it's just kind of growing out of the ground. However, if you need flowers that are looking like they're kind of just rising from the ground, whether you're putting this into like a meadow or in a studio for a photo shoot, or maybe it's like aisle flowers for a wedding, what I would do is recommend getting some kind of vessel that is shallow and low to the ground. A lot of people actually use like a little trough. The hardware store is a great place to come up with problem-solving tools, okay? I spend a lot of time at the hardware store. So, but today I love this shallow bowl. It's terracotta, and then I have the copper wire and the moss and twine, so everything kind of blends in together, and we can sort of camouflage this really well on the floor. Now, one thing you could actually, if you have a floor that's not too precious, let's say it's in a studio where it gets used a lot, you could actually set up a combo of vases and chicken wire and little terracotta saucers. These work great. And then put chicken wire in some and have some in the low vases, and then just cover it all with moss. And you could do a combo of that. But you can put the chicken wire straight on the floor if it's a floor that's not too precious. Otherwise, you can contain it. Now, that works well for dried flowers. If you have flowers that need to be in water or wet moss, you know, I recommend containing them. I also recommend containing them if you're looking for something that's like a little bit more uniform and tied together and not so wild and free, okay? So the other thing you could do is create a combo of twigs. You can always create flower frogs with twigs. You could also use flower frogs. You just want to be careful that the flower frog is secured inside the vase because it can topple over, okay? So I'm just going to cut this chicken wire. Now this is the copper variety. One thing about this, it works really well for dried flowers. However, it will get rusty if it gets water. So that is not something I enjoy with the copper. That would really create a hazard for your employees. So, but at any rate, I'm using a lot of dried flowers today. So what we're gonna do is create just a little ball of chicken wire, okay? And we're gonna kind of come in at the edges here. Basically, it's just a little grid, all right? Now, you can tape this in with floral tape, okay? You can also just take some twine, and what you can do is create another layer of chicken wire, okay? And what you would do is you would have these ready to go, okay? So let's say you're doing this for an important photo shoot or an important event. You're going to have these vessels all ready to go, okay? And may even get some of the layering done and then finish it off at the location, all right? So in my wedding class, we go more into timelines and production and planning, you know, how to plan for these things, because typically, even if you're doing a photo shoot or an event, you are actually working on a pretty intense timeline, okay? So I'm just going to create this little grid over the top, and then you can wire it on or you can tie this on. Okay, so now we have our bowl with our chicken wire grid, okay? And the nice thing about this is it's very shallow, but it has a little bit of depth. So that's going to help your mechanics. Now I'm working with mostly dried flowers today, okay? So I'm not going to put water in here. However, if you had a coated waterproof chicken wire, which you can get, that green coated chicken wire, you can get that from a floral supply store. Okay, you could put water right in here, or you could also just fill it with wet moss, okay? So I like to use materials that are already kind of giving me a grid and also giving me a lot of volume. So this beautiful dried, it's almost like a little bush of crown daisy, okay? That has all these offshoots on it. I'm going to leave that as is. And I'm going to have that be one of my first pieces, okay? So I can stick that right in there, all right? So what we want to do in the beginning is work quite low. I have some greenery here that will last okay out of water. So we definitely want some things coming over the edge, and we'll add even more. So with ferns and things that might be a little bit delicate, you could always place a vial in there or wrap them in wet moss. These ferns last pretty well out of water. So I'm also working all the way around. So even if this is going to be against a wall, just for balance and weight, I need to have items on all sides. We always want to keep gravity in mind when we are creating any type of floral arrangement, but for an installation, it's going to be extra important, okay? So before we get the super tall pieces in, as always, we want a little bit of weight on the bottom. Okay, so I'm just adding in some low greens and herbs here. And then some slightly taller greens, okay? Now some of these items might be moved around just a little bit when we get this on the floor, okay? And that is really the beauty, okay, when when you work with chicken wire or with, you know, anything with non-foam is that you can take it in and out of your composition, okay? So now that I have a little bit of weight on the bottom, I'm starting to add in my larger pieces, doing the heaviest first, and then I'll add in the lighter grasses and things like that are really going to be my filler, okay? So once I get this on the ground, I will add more larger pieces, and then the delicate items are going to go in fast. I would never transport this with any of the delicate pieces in there, like the grasses, okay? But since this is here, I'll just show you what that starts to look like, getting those fillers in. Now, we're going to cover all of our mechanics with moss. So one way I like to style this is just setting it on some linen on the ground, which will work really well if you're doing this for a photo shoot. So now I'm just going to go in and add in my taller branches and fillers and get it filled out. And I will keep stepping away to make sure that I like how it looks from a wider angle. Sometimes when you're working on large pieces, you have to remind yourself to keep stepping away so that you can see how it looks as a total piece. That's the most important thing. You don't want to get too precious with everything. One tip on the bottom, after you're done filling out the arrangement, go ahead and camouflage your vessel with the moss. Make sure that it's not too neat and tidy and not too clumped together. So I like to have it be a little bit messy on the bottom with some twigs and branches and some branches and leaves coming over the side of the vase, so that it doesn't look like a vase. The idea here is that it's just kind of rising from the ground. So these are really fun installations to make for any sort of photo shoot, for weddings or events. So to help you out, because I know sometimes installations can be a little bit stressful, you know, when a client asks you for one. So I'm going to put a little checklist down below, a little link for you to download a checklist, and this will tell you everything you need for a floral ground installation like we did today. And that way, every time you do a floral installation for a ground, every time you do a floral installation on the ground, you have this little checklist that will tell you all the tools you need and basically a summary of a lot of what I've told you here plus a little bit more. So I will put that checklist in the description box below, and also just pop your questions below. Let me know how I can help you with your floral installation projects. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you do want to see more free flower workshops, I love sharing them here on this channel, as well as tips and tricks for becoming a florist. So go ahead and subscribe if that is up your alley. Thank you again, and I will see you in the next video.